had two dogs growing up. The first one was a Shetland sheepdog, Keisha. Quick fact, growing up, I didn't know what the breed was called, so I just said Keisha dog. And that's what I still call them to this day. I don't have too many memories of Keisha because my parents got her before I was born and I was too young to remember very much from the few years we coexisted. But my mom and dad have told me stories of us, including the one I'm about to share with you. Setting the timeline here, I was really young, 3 years old. I don't have memory of this, but my parents have told me about it many times. So my mom and dad decided that we should all take a nice walk around the neighborhood with Keisha. I was apparently very excited about this and was wanting to go out right at that moment. They told me to slow my roll and wait a bit because they needed to get ready, and we would go out later. But Jaden thought, nah, I'm going now. So I took Keisha and left the house on my own without telling my parents I was leaving. There was now an unsupervised 3-year-old wandering down the street, walking a dog. I can't even imagine what that could have looked like. I don't know how far down the road I got, but by some crazy coincidence, a police cruiser just so happened to be driving by and spotted me. As it started approaching, I guess I was like, shoot, they're after me! Abort! Abort! And before they could ask me any questions, I start booking it back to the house. It was around that time my parents realized I left and were getting ready to go out and find me, and they come out to the front to see their frickin' child, dog leash in hand, hightailing it from this police cruiser that's following me down the neighborhood. Everything was fine. I was fine. The dog was fine. But now you know about the one time I was chased by the police. Keisha was a great dog, as I was told. She was gentle with me as a baby and was like my own fluffy bodyguard / babysitter. But she passed away before I was old enough to really remember her. I've always loved animals my entire life and would beg my parents to let us get another dog. Years and years of nagging and just, please, Mom, I promise I'll take good care of it, and I'll feed it, and I'll water it, and give it sunshine, and everything a dog needs to grow into a big, strong doggo, please! And on my 7th birthday, my dad went behind my mom's back and got me a dog without telling her. Okay, we went to look at dogs before as a group, but it was never an official decision we'd get one. So here's the story of when we got our new dog. My dad went to the place to pick him up. We got him from a dog rescue, which is a recommended place to get animals because you save a life and all that. Try to look into rescues and adoptions over breeders, just a tip I thought I'd just mention. And when he was holding the dog, getting ready to take him home, the dog started peeing on him. Obviously, my dad didn't want that, so he tried to hold him away from his body, but that made the dog nervous and he turned around and bit my dad's hand. Not wanting to drop the dog on the floor, he tried to shift him over to the other hand, but he bit that one too! My dad came home with pee on his shirt, 2 bleeding thumbs, and a dog. I named him Scruffy. Scruffy was a weird little dog. Havanese breed, if you're wondering. He hated my dad and loved my mom, who was, ironically, the only one who didn't want him. He would follow her everywhere, and when she was at work, he'd sit in the living room and do nothing but wait for her to get back. We always joked that he was just a cat in a dog's body. Come here, Scruffy! Come here! Come here, Scruffy! But we loved him anyway. My mom gave him haircuts to make it look like he had a mohawk. So back to stories. Every morning our mom would drop us off at our elementary school down the street, and Scruffy would ride in the car too. He'd sit in the back with us and stick his head out the window, but one day he just jumped out. He freaking jumped out the window of a moving car. We weren't driving fast, mind you, because we weren't on the main road yet, but friggin' heck it, Scruffy, you can't just jump out moving cars whenever you want. He ran into the desert because he was freaked out, and we lost track of him. Of course, my brother and I still had to go to school, but I was pretty messed up for the rest of the day. And by the time I got home, he still wasn't found. This was in summer, too. A little black dog in the Arizona sun without water otter isn't a good combination. And he definitely wouldn't survive a night with all the coyotes around. He'd be like a little Happy Meal to him. We drove around looking for him for a long time. I was leaning out the window calling his name. And no, I didn't jump out and run away too. After searching and searching for so long, we were actually starting to lose hope. But we finally found him! Scruffy! Finding Scruffy again was the biggest rush of relief I've ever experienced in my life. Want to hear about the second time he ran away? This was several years later. We were driving back from visiting my aunt in Tahoe. It wasn't just my mom, dad, brother, and Scruffy with us. My dad's dad was with us too. We call him Opa. So we were driving in the middle of the desert on our way home, and we decided to stop at a gas station. My mom and I had to go to the bathroom, so she gave Scruffy to Opa and told him to let him go to the bathroom while we went to the bathroom. He was on a leash, so nothing could have gone wrong, right? Right? Yeah, of course not. While we were in the stall, I was still young enough to go in the same restroom stall as my mom, okay? Opa busts in and yells for my mom. There are a few other women in the bathroom too, so they were a bit startled to see this tiny old man come in and start making a ruckus. Yeah? And she sees Opa holding the leash with no dog on the end. Oh, great! Pull up your pants, we're going on a run. Few people that were there were all chasing after him, too. Everyone was screaming at each other, "Get the dog! Get the dog!" and running around. Ugh, what a disaster. The thing is, even though Scruffy was a small dog with tiny legs, he could run. Those things can friggin' run. And when he started running, you couldn't stop him. If you tried to yell his name, it wasn't like he was gonna listen. He hardly did that anyway. So how'd we catch him? Driving down the road towards us was a white van. They saw that there was a herd of people chasing this tiny dog down the road, so they turned sideways, opened their big van car doors, and Scruffy just jumped in. What? Scruffy, hasn't anyone taught you not to jump into white vans with strangers? They didn't even have to offer you dog treats to get you in there. And I could try to lie to you and say they closed the door and drove off with a free dog, but they didn't. They gave him back to us. But think about how easily they could have. Oh, thanks for catching our dog. We could have never caught up to him. I don't think you would have forgiven me if I tried to pull off that ending. And that was runaway attempt number 2. He loved us, I promise. Scruffy was a great dog, too. And even though it might not seem like it because I only talked about him trying to run away from us, he was glad to be part of our family, and we all loved him. If you have an animal, make sure you give him a good pat on the head and tell him you love him. Even if it's a snake. Yeah. Snakes want love, too. It's sad to hear when animals die. Scruffy dying was the first time I ever had to experience death, and I was really heartbroken when he wasn't with us anymore. But just knowing we gave him a good life and he was a happy little dog helped me feel better. Make sure you give your animal the best life you can while they're still around. All animals deserve to be loved and cared for properly. They aren't your possession. They're a friend and a family member. Give them the right care, the right food, the right toys, the right amount of attention, everything. And make sure you do research beforehand to know exactly what it takes to make sure they're happy and healthy. Too many people impulse buy animals, and the poor thing doesn't end up being treated for correctly. Research and then love.